is another exciting Wolverine moment. We have a very special guest with us today. This is Mr. Johnny Warren. He serves on the school board. So we're going to interview him today and find a little bit about the history of Dade County and what Mr. Warren has, what his experience has been here. So how long have you been on the school board?
I'm in my 9th year.
9th year. What led you to run for the school board?
I wasn't really familiar, honestly, with what the school board did, but it's a small community, so I knew everyone on there. And I guess my first year was 2013, and in 2011, 2012, the austerity cuts, which I didn't understand that at the time either, but struggling. And so I was asking 2 or 3 people, why don't you run? You would be a great school board member. And one person told me they would, and then 2 weeks before the cutoff to qualify, the person backed out. And so I was asking other people to run. I said, you know, we need to really support the school board. So they threw it back at me and said, why don't you run?
That's what happens when you volunteer other people, then you have to volunteer.
Yes. So that's how they talked me into it, and this is my 3rd term beginning this year.
Was there anything that just really surprised you once you were on the school board that maybe you didn't understand the school board did or was involved with?
Yes, and for the most part it was the whole thing, and I've had other people who wanted to run for school board call me and they say, you got any advice? And I said, well, let me tell you this. I don't know your thoughts of what being a school board member is, but it is not what you think. So it's totally different, and I think when you see we're unique to the rest of the state, really, even in our 4 counties that we're thrown in with, Walker, Catoosa, and Chattooga. I told Governor Deal one time, I said, I had a few minutes with him one-on-one, and I said, you can't put us in the same pot with those 3 counties because we don't have what they do. But it's been exciting. I do enjoy it, and you know, the kids that go through our school system are our future leaders. So it's important. Maybe the most important elected spot you could get in, but that's a matter of opinion.
Well, again, thank you so much for being willing to give your time today to talk to us. Did you have school when you were a child? Did you come through this building at all?
No, this building was built in 80s. And I'm an old man. I graduated in 1964. The old building that we used then, well, where part of Dade Elementary is now was our high school and middle school. So I've been there a long time.
You have relatives in the school system, right? I think one of our teachers maybe is your nephew. Do you have a nephew here?
A great nephew, 2 great nephews.
Oh, okay.
I have one in the middle school and one in the elementary school, Justin and Jonathan Page.
All righty. Well, what kind of student were you? Did you ever get paddled, Mr. Warren?
Do I have to tell the truth?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Why did you get paddled?
Oh, me.
You're trying to think of which time, aren't you?
Yes. No, I didn't get that many, but I did probably all through my entire 12 years, probably got 4 or 5. And one was unjustified, but I guess it made up for the ones I should have got that I didn't. But the one that upset me the most, if you're guilty, you just got to take your punishment and go on. But the one that really hurt my feelings and other places, in the music room, we had folding chairs, and every day we had to pick up. So the girl sitting in front of me, and this is a true story, there was a juicy fruit chewing gum wrapper under her chair. So she was leaning back. So when I reached down to get it, holding on the back of her chair, the music teacher thought I tried to turn her over because she let out a sound. I said, I'm sorry, come up here. So that one I didn't deserve, but the rest of them I did.
What's interesting to me about that is it does not matter what age you are. if someone has done something unjust toward you, you remember it. Like it stays with
Oh,
you.
yeah.
It really stays with you. So what kind of student were you? Did you make good grades? Were you involved in sports?
Yes, I was involved with sports, baseball and football. But you asked me what kind of student I was. I had the ability, and my parents would get on to me and my sisters. I didn't really give it a good effort. And sometimes if I didn't like the subject as well as another, I wouldn't make as good a grades. I guess that's common if something interests you more than others. And wanted to be an architect. So when I got out of school, I went to architectural college in Atlanta and found out that my weakness in mathematics, especially geometry and trigonometry, weren't sufficient to pass. So I dropped out of that and was later drafted, went into the military, and got out of the military, and the military paid for my college education, so I did go get my degree after that. But as they say, if you play the wrong way, it don't work.
Well, tell us about getting drafted. So this was during which situation?
Vietnam, and I got very fortunate there in a way. Got drafted in July of '67. Got out in July of '69, and Vietnam was still raging. But 188 of us at Fort Benning, Georgia, in our company. And when we graduated, everybody was going straight to Fort Polk, Louisiana, to go to infantry training, to go to Vietnam. Well, 8 of us went somewhere else out of 188. Only 8 didn't go there. And this is another true story. There was a famous clarinet player from Pensacola, Florida, named John C. Warren, Jr. Mine was John L. Warren, Jr. So the Saturday they were giving our orders around the hand-to-hand combat pit, C was his middle name, so he went first, and he said, 98th Army Band, Fort Rucker, Alabama. And I shook hands with him and said, maybe see you later. So my name was next, and it said John L. Warren, 98th Army Band, Fort Rucker, Alabama. So I came home for 2 weeks, went to Ozark, Alabama on the bus, and took a taxi over to Fort Rucker. And band room on Monday morning, everybody's blowing their horns, and I'm standing in the corner.
You didn't play anything.
And I had some piano lessons for 3 or 4 years at one time, but band director came over and he said, "Soldier, what instrument do you play?" And I said, "I don't play an instrument." And he said, "Well, what are you doing here?" I said, "My orders said come here." So he said, "We need to send you back to Fort Benning and get you reprocessed." So I had to go to the Adjutant General's office, getting reprocessed, and he said, my people leaving here when I need a clerk. If you could type, I'd keep you here. Well, I really could. I actually selected to go to the literary events back then and on typing speed of familiar phrases. He said, "If you can type 50 words a minute, I can keep you here for 90 days. I said, "Give me a typewriter." So I did. He said, "You got to type it without error." And it'd been a while, so I'm cracking my knuckles trying to get set up, and I did. I think I typed 59 words a minute. And he kept me for 90 days, and I worked in the section where levies was coming down from D.C., sending people to Vietnam or Korea. And my name came in on a Germany levy. And he said, "I can take you off of that, but you know what's next." So I said, I'll go to Germany. So I did, and I got in 7th Army headquarters in Heidelberg. And I stayed in headquarters from then on. And exciting career. I missed Vietnam, but if you've read the newspaper or history now, it's Czechoslovakia, Russia drove their tanks down the streets of Prague. So they sent us to the border and gave them 24 hours to get out. So I said, well, I missed Vietnam, so I'm going to get shot in Czechoslovakia.
Oh.
But they went out with about an hour, if best I remember, about an hour left in that 24-hour period. They started moving their tanks out. And
That is a crazy story. Were you tempted when you ended up with the band? Were you tempted because you knew it would possibly keep you out of being in Vietnam to like pretend you knew how to play?
no, I just told them I couldn't play an instrument.
Oh, that is
But
crazy.
we didn't get any leave or anything, and all the 8 people that went somewhere else did get a 14-day leave. So I said, well, all they do is send me back and reprocess me, so I'm going home for 14 days. So that's
Goodness. So you mentioned that after you got out of the military that the GI Bill paid for you to go to college.
yes.
So what kind of degree did you end up getting?
Ended up getting a business administration. I put in 43 years, what was back then combustion engineering in Chattanooga, and then we got bought out by a company called ABB. Came in and took over, a large worldwide known company, and then Alstom Power came in and took over the fossil side, and Westinghouse got the nuclear side, and I worked in both back and forth, and then put in 43 years there, and it was a good place to work, good job.
When you were the age of our children, middle school kids are anywhere from 11 to 14 years old, typically. When you were that age, did you have any idea what you wanted to do when you grew up?
Absolutely not.
And that's okay.
I really didn't, and I really worried about that even when I got out of high school. Today I would have had, if I started to school, my birthday's in October, I would have had to have waited another year now. So I was immature when I graduated. Truthfully, probably the best thing that happened to me was the military. You grow up real quick. Real quick.
There's a lot of pressure, I think, nowadays, especially because when you go to high school, you have to decide on some career pathways, and I think sometimes our kids get the wrong impression that everybody else but them. Because, when you're in middle school, you think everybody else something except you. You always feel like you're the lone ranger. I think sometimes they mistakenly think that everybody else has it together and knows exactly what they're going to do. So I'm glad you shared that, because you don't have to know what you're going to do yet.
No, there's time, and life generally turns out better to wait to see what you're really qualified, what you would love to do the rest of your life. And I don't have many regrets in that respect.
Were there things looking back when you were their age that any kind of skills or talents, gifts you had that you do think ended up tying in with what you've done as a career?
Partially. I really love mechanical drawing. And of course it was T-square and drawing board then, and triangles, and I took every year of that, two years of it, and in the 8th grade, we did not have a gymnasium in my years of high school. So they were getting ready to build the gymnasium that's at Dade Elementary, with the old high school there, the old gym. And that was my last project, was to draw the floor plan of that gymnasium. And of course I enjoyed that, and it wasn't hard. And I wanted to be an architect, but as I said earlier, my mathematics didn't work out.
So when you said you drew the floor plan, you mean the students actually came up with the plan they used for the gym?
Our teacher, who was then Walter Bolden, he said, I've got a project for someone in here. We're getting ready to, the school board and school system's getting ready to start another gymnasium. And he said, I've got some sketches here, rough sketches. And he said, who would like to draw a floor plan of that we could use? So we discussed it, and I said, I would love to do that. So I got to do it.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive. Were you proud? Like, that would have made me so proud that the floor ended up being what I designed.
You know, I really didn't think about it
You
that
didn't
way.
realize
No,
it was.
it was a project I got a good grade on, and that's why I was.
Wow.
But it didn't hit me till later, you know.
So when you think back to your school days, did you have any teachers that really stood out to you or made a big impact on your life?
Yes, I did. I've told some people like to hear the story and some do not, I guess. But had a fifth grade teacher, Ronald H. Griffith, and he was only here a half year, but he just, every student in that classroom, we never had any problem. Maybe the only year I went through through 12 grades that never saw someone act up, but he just had a calming effect. He played football with the boys. We tackled him at recess just like we would another student. But he left at the half year and went back to the University of Georgia for some more college, and then he went in the Army for 37 years, a 4-star general, 7 Bronze Stars. I can't name all of his accolades, but he was in Washington, D.C. on the war planning, the head honcho of whatever title he had at that time. But I got to text with him and talked with him, and he was coming. He had an aunt that lived in Lafayette, where he was born in Lafayette, Georgia, and there's a highway from Lafayette to Calhoun that says the Ronald H. Griffith Highway. And but he was just perfect for the 5th grade class.
How did you realize, and you've got a photo of him, and I think of the class too that we're going to show. How did you, like when I had teachers, I don't even know who my 5th grade teacher was, to tell you the truth, but I wouldn't have been able to keep up with him. How did you realize about his career and what he ended up doing after that?
Honestly, I knew he went in the military, but I didn't know what all he was involved with. And there was an article, and it got unintentionally thrown away, a big article in the Chattanooga Times Free Press. And I had it with this other information here, and I saw his picture, and I said, I really believe that was my 5th grade teacher. So I looked this photo up, then I talked with his aunt, who was when I talked with her, the widow of a prominent attorney that was in our area. And I showed her that. She said, yeah, that's Ronnie. And then she gave me his cell phone and home phone in Washington, D.C. So I called him and left a message on his cell phone, and he called me back. And we were setting up my wife and I were going to take he and his wife to dinner. And it fell through, which I regret that. But
And he reported directly to the president, right?
yeah, he was, if I
Of the
understand
United
it,
States.
yeah, he was the vice chief, and I think sat in the chief's chair for I can't remember the verbiage they used on that at the moment.
That's amazing.
General of the Army and Vice Chief of Staff of the Army.
Another thing I love about that story, and thank you for sharing that with us, is students, you matter to your teachers. When you're a teacher, it does not matter if you had a kid for half a year, if you had a kid for 3 years in a row, you become our kids. And our success so often, and the way we feel good about what we're doing in our job, is seeing your success. So for him to have been willing, years later, to give you his cell phone number, to give you his home number, to, yeah, let's meet, let's see each other in person, even though that fell through, that just speaks to how important it is for teachers to see the success of their students. That's a very neat story.
So many people in the military that are officers, they make the rank of general, but to be a 4-star. He spent from 1960, 37 years, to 97. And to read some of his awards, it was Vietnam War, Gulf War, Legion of Merit 3, Bronze Star 7, Purple Heart.
Wow.
Very decorated.
Man.
He passed away in July of 2018.
Tell us a little bit about how you think school has changed. You know, when I look at the pictures you've brought, physically, the kids look different. You know, the dress, the hair looks different. But do you think kids have changed a whole lot?
In some respect, and for the most part, kids are kids. There's more things to do now. Growing up in a small town, never had a whole lot of crime taking place, but we would get bored and do whatever to get some kind of action started. But I think my struggle with school, and if you can't keep your interest in something, you're just not going to be effective. And I couldn't wait sometimes when the weather changed and warmed up. I couldn't wait to either get on the creek bank or some pond fishing or in the woods. You know, I loved hunting and fishing, and if you could play any kind of football or baseball, I was ready. But I was easily distracted, and you know what errors you make growing up, I tried to stop my kids from doing that. And they would constantly remind me, Dad, it's not like it was when you went to school, which was true. But times have changed for the good, and I really think, and I am prejudiced, yes, but I think we got a great school system, and proud to be a board member. And as I related to you earlier, people ask me, why do you do it? And sometimes my wife gets on to me for doing this. I say, I just do it for the money.
And they know, I hope they remember from the earlier interview, there's not a lot of money to be made as a school board member.
No.
You couldn't even buy groceries for the month.
No, we get paid by the meeting, and we get $50 per meeting. And you can't even look at that. You do it because you want to.
Yeah. Well, what advice would you have to our middle schoolers? If you were going to give them a piece of advice, what advice would you give them?
I would say, and I know some parents might not want me to say this, but I really think I've seen this personally with my kids. I've seen it with other kids graduating high school. You don't have to decide what you want to be at that early age. And I know I had no clue of what I wanted to do or be when I couldn't do my architectural work. But make good grades. It's going to show up. I think our absenteeism has really went down, except for during this COVID period. We were on the right track. Try to pick your classes that you like, that you would enjoy, and if it changes later on, you got time in your life to change, so you don't have to rush into anything.
That's good advice. Today the day we're filming this happens to be 1 year since school shut down in the whole world, the whole globe shut down schools 1 year ago today. So I want to personally thank you as a school board member for doing everything you could to get us open back up. You know, the rest of the nation is, you turn on any headline news right now and you're saying, how do we get the schools reopened? And I'm like, what are they talking about? We've been open.
Yeah.
You know, we came back in August. So thank you for that, because we need to be in school. We need our kids here. We need to be continuing with education, and that is largely due to our school board making sure that we were able to come back to school. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I think we made it for the most part through the worst part of the pandemic. We're on the downslope now, and I think we'll be fine.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate you so very much, and the kids are going to love hearing about your life and what advice you had to give. This has been you have something else?
No, thank you.
Are you sure?
No, yes.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to share?
Can't think of anything. No.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This has been a Wolverine moment.